Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for tonight's match review against Luton Town, of course. Ignore that last poll I've just put up for man of the match because I missed one guy out. I put one guy in instead of the other. Tonight, obviously, listen, respect everyone's opinion, please. I know there's probably going to be lots of different opinions, so please just respect everybody's. If you do enjoy the show, please do give it the thumbs up. Keep those likes coming in on the channel, of course. It really does help us in the YouTube search results. And if you're new and you like what you see, why not hit that subscribe button? Come and be part of the amazing community now on the Toon review. And of course, heading towards 28,000. Billy, if you do want to super chat as well, you know the rules. Just click that $sign at the bottom of the live comments, and you will guarantee to have your comment read straight out. Billy, how are you feeling after yesterday? Because there's certainly been a lot of issues on social media as normal.
Yeah, disappointed that we couldn't beat Luton at home. Very disappointed. However, it could have been a lot worse. We could have lost. We were 4-2 down. So we could have lost to them. So, yeah, we pulled it back. Pride that they showed, a bit of pride in the shirt and did fight back. But, an awful lot of naivety, not only from the players, but from the manager himself as well. So, disappointed.
I've just seen Mark Atkinson saying Anthony Gordon was walking fine in the Metro Centre today. He's still on crutches, mate. He just moved the crutches for the photos with the kids that he saw. He's still on crutches, but he says he's okay, but sore apparently. So we will see what happens. Man of the match for the vote, the viewers' vote. That's at the top of the chat now. You've got Longstaff, Share, Miley, or Trippier. Those are the four players for man of the match. So please do stick a vote on there, and we'll have a look at that at the end of the game. Now, one of the main questions I want to ask, Billy, is before we start, what has happened to football fans? What on earth is going on with football supporters these days? Because you just cannot criticize anybody without somebody jumping on the bandwagon and having a right dig at you. I'm not talking about me. I've just seen a lot of people expressing their opinions on the performance yesterday and the performance of certain players, the performance from the manager. And not everybody wants Eddie Howe out, despite criticizing him. He's not beyond criticism, Billy, and neither are the players. And, the old days, you used to criticize, you used to go in the pub, you used to have a crack on with your mates and criticize players and stuff like that. And now you say anything and woof, they're on top of you like it's unbelievable. You can criticize. Yeah,
there's an awful lot of people who think that criticism is anti-team, anti-club, anti-Newcastle United.
Yeah.
In actual fact, it's not. If you're supporting some of the things that are clearly not good, then you're the problem because you'll accept anything. We won't accept poor performances once or twice, but when the players keep making the same mistake over and over again, then they're up for criticism. And people need to kind of get with it, really. And, supporting the team isn't just about standing there clapping all day. It's about being critical, but, constructively. You don't do it nastily. You don't go on the social media saying you're shit and all this stuff. Constructive criticism is the way forward. The manager needs to constructively criticise as well. It's not just the players. It's not just a team thing. It's the whole backroom staff and everything. Things ain't quite right at certain times of this season, and sometimes they're not being improved on. And the experience we've had over the past 6 weeks, 2 months, you'd have thought maybe one or two things have been lined out, and they're not.
Keith Dites, thank you for gifting another 5 Toon Review memberships. That is incredibly kind, mate. Thank you so much. Massive part of the membership basis, Keith. I really couldn't count how many memberships Keith has donated. Incredible stuff. So thank you again, Keith. The thing is, a lot of people take criticism as you abusing a player or abusing the manager. And quite frankly, that is absolute bollocks. Dan Burn was pathetic yesterday. He was terrible. The manager's decision to leave him on the pitch was despicable. Now, does that mean I want Eddie Howe to be sacked? No, it bloody doesn't. Do I think, do I throw abuse at Dan Burn? No. His performance as a footballer on the pitch yesterday was rotten. He shouldn't have been there for a start. We were going against one of the quickest wingers in the Premier League, and Eddie should have picked that up before the game had even kicked off, in my opinion. And then Dan Burn doesn't come in, doesn't get let out. I think he's been, let out to dry a little bit, Dan Burn, because, it's not his fault that he doesn't have the pace to keep up, but he was on the pitch and it just wasn't good enough. But listen, we conceded 4 goals at home to Luton Town, and people are still trying to blow flowers up people's arses. It doesn't work that way in football, and it never has. There wasn't great performances yesterday, and we have to call it out because we're doing a match review. Luton Town came and absolutely surprised me 100%, and I think surprised Billy as well. They played very, very well, but they targeted certain areas of the pitch that they knew they could target. And they had a very good midfielder in Ross Barkley who pulled the strings for them the full game, and they played very, very well. I am taking nothing away from Luton Town. So if there's any Luton fans watching, don't get me wrong. You guys deserved probably to win that game yesterday. And, in hindsight, a point was probably brilliant for you anyway. But from a Newcastle United point of view, simply not good enough. And the same mistakes are happening over and over again. I said on my reaction video last night that I apologized to Miggy for calling him out at halftime, because I've looked at it back and wow, he had to do so much defensive work in that first half, and it shouldn't be up to Miggy to do that. He should be up the other end of the pitch where we'll get the benefit of him attacking, not defending for nearly the full half of the game. So things were very, very wrong. But I'm not going to sit here and say everything's rosy in the garden when it wasn't. Because one thing you'll get from me and Billy tonight is 100% honesty and no bull rot. If we played bloody well yesterday and we had fantastic performances, we'd say it. And we'd be singing the praises like we did after the Villa game. But it's not good enough yesterday. And to get where we want to be, there's certain players in this starting 11 who are not going to get us there. It is as simple as that. And if anyone can't see that, then, I've seen a comment on YouTube earlier on to my reaction video yesterday saying, we took 4 points from Aston Villa and Luton. I'm quite pleased with that. Really? It should have been 6. After we beat Villa, we should have gone on to the next level and beat Luton, if that's where we want to be. I mean, Billy, I don't know what your feelings are, but I'm not happy with yesterday. Despite us coming back from 2 goals down, it wasn't good enough.
No, the same mistakes have been made. We're getting caught too far forward at times and not enough cover at the back. Certain areas of the pitch aren't being addressed properly. The left-back position is the main one, of course. And he was at fault for the 3rd goal as well, when he was way up the pitch and giving the ball away, trying to volley a pass. I mean, what's he doing? I don't know I honestly don't. I think his head had gone. I honestly believe his head had gone. Yeah. And then, of course, he's given a penalty away, which was ridiculous. Another ridiculous mistake. But that was only because he couldn't catch up with the bloke that was running past him. Yeah. So, there's lots of things we can kind of criticise. There were some plus points, but in the main, against the side that everyone thought would be whipping boys in the Premier League this season, not going to be, and that they haven't been, to be fair to them. But a midfield of Longstaff, Bruno and Miley shouldn't be getting overrun by Ross Barkley, basically. No. And they were.
And I know Sean scored 2 goals yesterday, and he took his goals brilliantly. Yep. But that attempt to tackle Barkley for their equaliser was absolutely atrocious. I mean, we've said it so many times that he's just sometimes not strong enough. And it's like he just bounced off, and then Barkley went through, and then the rest is history, of course. They went and got the equaliser. But you know what? You look at the team selection yesterday, and Alex was right, after the game when he was, came on for his analysis of the game. He was right what he said. We can't just win a game and then go into the next one saying, oh, well, we played well the last game. Let's pick the same team. You have to look at the teams you're playing against and look where their dangers are. And it was, clear as day yesterday within the first 5 minutes that their wingers, especially the one, what was his name again?
Ogbenny.
Ogbenny, yeah. Who we got wrong for the first 20 minutes of this commentary, but never mind. He had him on toast for pace every single time. And they saw that and they continued to do it time and time and time again. And you get to half time and you think, right, Eddie's got to be cutthroat. He's got to be ruthless. He's got to make a decision here. And for me, he bottled it. He completely bottled it. And, we went on to suffer. And then when we go 2 goals down, once again, it's a reaction to bringing on Livramento and Harvey Barnes. Yes, it worked bringing on Barnes because he turned the game. He got the equaliser. Could have won the game for us. Fine. But you can't get away with it. You can't get away with that much longer. Spike Milligan, thank you for your super chat. Eddie cost us a win by not subbing Burn at the latest half-time. Burn was awful at the very least. An attacking player lost to cover for Burn. And that's right, Billy. We I know I called Miggy out at half-time, but looking at it back, I was wrong.
The Burn problem was exacerbated yesterday. I mean, generally through the season and when he's played, and we've missed him a lot this season, Sven Botman covers him along for long, puts fires out when he's getting beaten. Yesterday, Sven Botman had a pretty poor game himself, so he wasn't able to get across and cover for him, and that made it the problem 10 times worse, in my opinion. I mean, it wasn't just Stan Burn. Sven had a poor game as well inside him. He didn't get as much cover as what he would usually. I don't think Miggy really did cover back much, to be honest, if I'm perfectly honest. And Miley was left once in first half as well, covering. Generally Joe Linton would be there, and you'd have Gordon in front and they'd cover. But yesterday, obviously not. But Dan Burn, he didn't help himself. I mean, giving penalties away and giving the ball away high up the pitch when we've got no one at the back to cover. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Of course, yes, we miss Joe Linton because Joe Linton does that job very, very well. But Joe Linton has the physicality to do that situation and win the ball back. But then he's up the other end of the field. Not many players can do what Big Joe does. So, yes, he's a miss. Gillian, I was going to say this. I saw that as well. Eddie stated that Burn was outstanding. That's the problem I have, Billy. I mean, I don't know whether he's coming out and just defending his player, but he makes himself look a fool when he does that, to be honest, when he comes out and says that he thought Burn was outstanding. In what possible way was Dan Burn outstanding yesterday? And it's not Dan Burn's fault either. Dan Burn has a certain ability, right? And he's got that ability, and he's not going to get any better, right? But what Dan Burn doesn't have is pace. So he shouldn't have been picked to start the game anyway, Billy.
I think what Eddie Howe said and what Eddie Howe actually did at polar opposites, he took him off. If he had an outstanding game, he'd still been on the pitch, wouldn't he? If he really thought he played well, which clearly he didn't, he would have left him out on the pitch. So I think Eddie's, he's clouding the issue a little bit. I mean, he shouldn't have even made half time. He should have made 30 minutes yesterday. At the very latest, half time should have been the last bit of action he saw. Yeah. But it wasn't. He was still on. When did he come off? 65 minutes, 70 minutes? When he'd given 2 goals away virtually himself, penalty and that pass, and dear me, it was just a really, really poor performance. I feel sorry for him. Yeah, I think he has been left out to dry. I think he has been put in the bus.
Absolutely. And I think the penalty incident said it all for me. Whether you think it should have been a penalty or not doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, that situation shouldn't have come around because Dan Burn shouldn't have been on the pitch at that point. It was clear in that first half that he was doing him for pace, time after time after time. But Eddie didn't do anything about it. And Dan Burn was put in that situation by an error from his manager. There is no doubt about that. And again, I'm criticising Eddie Howe. Yes. Do I want him sacked? No. So before anybody jumps on the bandwagon and says, oh, Eddie's this, Eddie's that, he made a big error yesterday. Despite the fact that I am still 110% behind Eddie Howe. But he has to start learning that he cannot keep playing the same players for certain games where certain teams have strengths and we have better defenders to put in that situation. And don't get me started about Lewis Hall. I've got no idea what the hell is going on with Lewis Hall. I just don't. I saw somebody put up on social media earlier on today, some of his YouTube highlights, and this kid's a talent, and it just seems he hasn't got going yet. And then people are saying, well, maybe it's because he hasn't yet got around to the way of Eddie Howe's play. We're in February. How long can we keep on saying things like that?
I mean, people are saying Eddie can't be criticised. He's still learning. He's been a manager for 16 years. And just in this season alone, he's conceding we're conceding the same kind of goal. AC Milan, Nottingham Forest did it 3 times. Luton yesterday. He's not learning. He's not learning on the job, that's for certain.
Yeah. Stu says, nobody can say where Newcastle are right now. Burn was outstanding against Villa, but was the opposite against Luton. Our shape when we lose possession in the final third always leaves us exposed. Yes, but that's what we're saying. Yes, he did particularly well against Villa until Bailey came on. But then Eddie saw that straight away and made the change. But then he puts Burn against one of the quickest players in the Premier League yesterday. It makes no sense at all. And, I'm not surprised that a lot of players are coming, a lot of fans are starting to say they're getting a bit fed up of him playing his favourites.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be surprised to see Dan Burn in the starting lineup against Forest next week, even despite what happened at St James's Park on Boxing Day. Even despite what happened yesterday, I'll still think he'll pick him for the game against Forest.
I do as well. And I think he's making a huge mistake because, again, Nottingham Forest have pace on the wings and will expose Dan Burn.
I think he thinks he's sending votes of confidence out when he picks him after bad games. I think that's. I can understand it to a certain extent, but if it was a game where Dan Burn would have been suited to, then maybe fine. But Forest, no, not with Alanga, not with Hudson-Odoi, not with Gibbs White. No way.
Yeah. Jonas says, that's why I come here. Real talk, not any censored wet willy shite like on X. Yeah, I mean, look, look, I understand if you're going to go onto social media and abuse somebody, right? I think that is wrong. And I think it's completely wrong abusing a player that way. But all we are doing is criticizing a performance from a footballer. We're not abusing the man personally. We're just saying that he had a bad game. But by God, I tell you something now, Dan Burn wasn't the only one that had a bad game yesterday. Bruno was terrible. Apart from the two brilliant balls he put in the second half, Bruno was nowhere.
He was polar opposites. First half, he was poor. Second half,
he got better second. Yeah. But, Longstaff scored 2 goals, but would you say his performance was good?
No.
Absolutely not, you wouldn't. Botman was shaky as hell yesterday. So it's not just Dan Burn. But what we're talking about is the manager making decisions so that we don't have these kind of players exposed during the game. And that's what he was, Billy. He was simply exposed to pace.
Yeah, exposed time and time again. You think after 3 or 4 times that maybe Eddie would have saw that and done something to fix it, but it didn't.
Now, look, there was some very positive points yesterday. Callum Wilson returned, of course, and I thought was exceptional when he came on. He looked like the old Callum Wilson yesterday, bossing the centre-backs, Billy, like we know he can. I mean, he didn't score, but he was really roughing them up. Harvey Barnes, of course, makes a comeback and scores an absolute sweet, sweet cheese of a goal, Billy. I mean, it was just passed into the corner. And then, of course, he nearly won the game if it wasn't for an excellent last-ditch tackle.
Yeah, Barnes was excellent when he came on. Made things happen. A silky finish for his goal from distance. Just as what's known as a finesse shot in FIFA. Just, caressed it into the far corner of the net. Fantastic goal. And Callum Wilson, when he came on, looked hungry. Looked really hungry. Looked up for the fight. He chased every ball. He held the ball up. He gave the Luton centre-halves a wheel going over. And if that's not Anthony Gordon's game, but it was something that he'd kind of had that in that game. They had a bit of an easy ride, apart from when Gordon was on the pitch, running at them with pace. But generally, Gordon was pulling out wide. So the centre halves really had a bit of an easy go of it until Callum Wilson came on. So yeah, I thought Wilson looked really, really hungry. And I'm looking forward to seeing him start next week. I think he will. Yeah,
I think he'll start against Forest as well. And I think he's just the kind of player we need against Forest, because it's going to be one of those games where, it's going to be physical. And we need, players like Callum Wilson on the pitch to go at them. I thought Anthony Gordon was excellent yesterday in the first half. I thought his running off the ball was brilliant. Again, there was a couple of times that we could have played him in on goal, but the passing was off. I remember Miley hit one, could have gone straight with the pass, but he played it out wide. I think that led to the first goal, actually. But, he could have, there was 2 or 3 times that Gordon could have been in on goal. But that's the kind of runs that Anthony Gordon makes, whether he's on the left or through the middle. It's a worry. Hopefully, it's just he twisted his ankle, I think, was the official story from the club. Obviously left on a boot, but wasn't in the boot today, but still was sort of on crutches, taking it easy. But he could make it, Billy. But if he doesn't, I think, Harvey Barnes has to start as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the risk in itself, isn't it? I mean, he's had 20 minutes or 30 minutes of football since kind of October time. That's a risk in itself. Hopefully, Gordon will just be a couple of days, to keep him weight off his foot, and hopefully by the end of the next week he'll be fit to play. So
Yeah. Tom says, I felt in a weakened midfield. Miley has a lot to cover. It was a lot to put on a 17-year-old shoulders. Well, you know what? Sean Longstaff has to take a lot of responsibility for that, because there's only so much Bruno can do. But Longstaff goes missing. Yes, he scored 2 great goals in the first half, and I'm never going to take them away from him. I thought he did fantastically well to get in between those 2 defenders for the first goal, and followed up very well for the second. However, when you look at Longstaff's job yesterday, you know, how often would we say, oh, great tackle from Longstaff? Very rare. It was Miley. And Miley actually made the brilliant tackle on, I think it was Barkley, for the equalising goal. You know, but when you look at what Longstaff, the weakness of him sometimes, he falls over so much. You know, I mean, how he fell over in that challenge with Barkley for their equaliser, their second equaliser yesterday, I do not know.
You know, he's got the engine and the fitness to run around. You think he'd have strength in him, but he hasn't, has he? Yeah. He's very soft-centered, very powder puff at times. He wants too much time on the ball at times as well, and he gets shoved off it physically. So he's got to maybe bulk himself up a bit. Whether that takes a bit away from his stamina, who knows? But something's got to change, because he is very weak, I've got to say, and he has been since he come back. And yesterday, defensively, I thought he was bloody awful.
Yeah. Slothy Vlogs mentions about Bruno as well, Billy. Just get your booking done, because he's kind of standing off tackles, isn't he? He put one in, I think, yesterday where he came sliding in and won the ball. But after that, you know, he's been very cautious about what he does. Now, whether he's been told that by the manager, because the situation with the team is we've got no players to come in, but it's a weird situation for Bruno himself, because he wants to play his normal game.
Yeah, I think he's been told. I think this is definitely from the management, because that's Bruno's game, is to be kind of in your face, full on tackling and all that. And he isn't, is he? He's having to kind of manage himself through the games and not get booked. I think they're trying to get him to the Arsenal game, if I'm perfectly honest. I think they're trying to get him through that. Yeah. And after that, take the two-game ban. But, you know, he doesn't look right to me. He didn't look fit yesterday. He looked like he was carrying an injury. He was limping for a lot of the time, holding his abs at other times of the game.
Yeah.
You know, but second half, he came to the party. He was fantastic second half. He really did push us forward. Some of the passing he did second half was unbelievable.
I mean, look, we've got options for Saturday, because if Anthony Gordon, you know, if his ankle is okay, then put him on the bench maybe and start Barnes and Livramento on the left. I'd be really interested to see what Barnes and Livramento can do on the left, and not so much risk Anthony Gordon against Forest away. But you know, I mean, we come out with these team predictions every week, and you know, we as fans, which we're entitled to do, talk about, you know, who we think had a good game, who we think had a bad game, etc., and try and sort of pick our best team that we would play. I know we're not managers, but we're fans, and fans will always do that. But I mean, how far do we go? It just seems pointless at the minute, because it's the same old, same old.
Well, you can be sure that the back four will be the same, I imagine. He's not changed it yet. He's never kind of dropped down Burn at all yet. But I think it needs to happen now. It really has to happen. And if it doesn't happen and we get beat because of that, you know, there's going to be some pretty serious questions asked of the manager.
Yeah. Paul, it depends how you see it. He said he was outstanding. He was outstanding, not outstanding. Makes a difference. Yes, he did say he was outstanding against Villa as well, but he did say that yesterday as well. Burn blatantly pulled his shirt. Fapper Pickle says, how would you feel as Dan Burn's teammate here? And Eddie thinks that he was outstanding. Not enough praise for others who do much better. All respect to Burn. It was on Eddie. Yeah, it was on Eddie. But the thing is, Billy, everybody's saying, you know, he's learning. Eddie's learning, needs to learn. I've said that myself. But when you see him not learning from these mistakes, that's when a little bit of worry kicks in. And I've seen some Bournemouth fans today saying that ended up being his downfall at Bournemouth, because he wasn't learning from his mistakes there. And eventually the results kept tumbling. He did have injury problems, but he didn't learn. And that's kind of worrying me a little bit, coming from the Bournemouth fans who absolutely adore Eddie, remember. But they said that if there was one downfall with Eddie, it's the fact that he's not learning quick enough. And look, he's been a manager a long time now, Bill. He should be he should be aware of these things.
He's very one-dimensional. Let's be perfectly honest. He is very one-dimensional. It's 4-3-3, and that's it. There's very, very rarely he changes. He did it on Tuesday night because it was a case of having to. Otherwise, we'd have probably not got a win out of the game. But I think he needs to start maybe with different formations. Maybe have something different to go back to if we're in trouble instead of all out attack and leaving ourselves open at the back, which we do. It's happened time and time again.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I don't think he's learned. I really don't think he's learned. I don't think he's 16 years and he's still making the same mistakes as what he did when he was at Bournemouth.
Yeah,
he's not going to learn, is he?
And I know, look, a lot of people last night disagreed with Alex when he was talking about Eddie learning. I know you did, Billy.
Absolutely.
But like I said, everyone's allowed to agree and disagree. I agree with you. I don't think he is learning. I think he's got a long way to go, and he needs to learn quick because, as much as we love Eddie, the owners aren't going to put up with mediocrity all the time. And if these guys are winners, remember, they don't want to fail in this. But it is a worry for me. I have to say, it's starting to niggle at me the fact that the same old mistakes are happening time and time again on the pitch and in the dugout. And listen, Dan Burn's been brilliant since he signed for this football club, right? He's brilliant in the dressing room. He's a brilliant character, and he's done magnificently well for us since he signed, right? I am taking nothing away from Dan Burn, but what I'm saying about Dan Burn is he has an ability which he cannot get any better now. He's hit his level. But if we want to be an elite side and move on to the next level, we can't put him out to dry every time. I mean, Eddie has to look at the opponents, and I'm staggered. I'm quite staggered he doesn't, because no one, seeing what Eddie does getting prepared for a game. But sometimes he doesn't realize that he can't play the same players because all the teams play differently. And Luton Town targeted that area yesterday, and it worked for them brilliantly. And I do, talking about it more and more, think that, poor Dan Burn was out to dry. He had a stinking game, but he shouldn't have been in that position anyway. And
let me just say, beginning of the season, before the season started, and people were asking him, journalists were asking him about the lack of a number 6 in the squad.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe actually said, I've got 3 6s. I've got Sean Longstaff, I've got Bruno Guimaraes, and I've also got Tonali. None of those 3 are 6s. If we don't sign a number 6 in the summer transfer window and allow our creative players to be more creative further up the pitch where they want to be creative and need to be creative, then he hasn't learned a thing. Yeah. He hasn't signed a 6. I mean, Yano makes a point of it every time he comes on about he's never said he wanted a 6. I don't believe he has ever looked for a 6. We desperately need a specialist number 6 to help the defence and to strengthen up the midfield. No doubt about it.
But that is a huge problem. That is a huge problem.
Yes, it is.
Craig says, Paul, what is it about you that makes your opinion about our squad more valid than the actual manager? Are you saying you're more qualified than Eddie? There you go. There you go. That is exactly the kind of dross that I'm talking about when a fan has an opinion. Do I think I'm more qualified than Eddie Howe? Absolutely not. In no way, shape or form. But as a Newcastle United fan, a season ticket holder who spent a fortune on this football club, I have a right as a fan to have an opinion. And that is my opinion. Is it a right opinion? That's here nor there. It's my opinion. And it just so happens that a lot of fans are agreeing with that opinion this time around because Eddie Howe made a mistake in playing Dan Burn. But it doesn't mean I'm more qualified than Eddie. It is a pathetic thing to say. And that comment there is exactly what we're talking about earlier on in the show. You're not allowed to have an opinion because you get people like him coming on going, oh, you better than the manager. No, not
Craig,
at all.
The point is, you've only got to look at the games. If you've watched any of the games, I don't know if you have or not, but if you watch the games, look at the results, look at the way we're conceding goals, then you're allowed to make an opinion that Eddie isn't learning. Simple as that. It's as simple as that.
I'm a Newcastle United fan, and I will have my opinion, whether you like it or not, Craig. But no, answering your question, it doesn't make me more qualified than Eddie because Eddie is more qualified than me, but he made a mistake yesterday. So jog on, pal. Honestly, pathetic. Anyway, CJ says our midfield is weak. Teams just brush us aside, and there is too much space putting extra pressure on the defenders. I actually agree with that, Billy, because the last few games, there has been that little gap between midfield and the back four, which of course Man City exploited very well, and but that's a lack of a number 6, mate, isn't it? That's exactly what you were just saying a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, a specialist number 6 sits there and blocks them gaps off. Simple as that.
Andrew says, Eddie seems to be above reproach with some fans. Cabbage Heed would have been slaughtered. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine that was Steve Bruce in the dugout yesterday? Would fans still be saying, oh, stop having a go at him and all of that? I mean, look, the bottom line is, I don't want Eddie Howe to be sacked, right? And I don't agree with this Eddie Howe out brigade. I want to see how far he can take us. I really do. I'm excited to see where he can take us if he learns from the mistakes, which we're not seeing at the minute. And that is the more worrying thing for me. Garant says, agree, Paul. Choose your team on the opposition you are playing. Can Stato do a heat map for Byrne? No, he's not here tonight. He's got family commitments, unfortunately. Byrne is supposedly playing because he is a better defender, but at the moment is the opposite. He does neither attack or defend. Graham says, a couple of my non-Newcastle friends saying last night they don't understand why Eddie is not under threat of the sack. Interesting coming from them who do not have the emotional attachment that we do. Look, Eddie's not under this. He's not in the threat of the sack, but he will be if he continues this parade of playing players that shouldn't be on the pitch in certain games. Like Stato said last night, there is games that Dan Byrne will work really well in and games that he won't. And that's why when you come up against out-and-out pace like that yesterday, Billy, you have to respond.
Exactly. I mean, in the first 10 minutes, I think he was ran around 3 times. That was in the first 10 minutes alone. And by the half an hour mark, you were looking at 5 or 6 times he'd been beaten for pace by Ogbenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the manager has to take steps to stop that. And he didn't. He just didn't. It's not fair to ask Miggy to come back and become an auxiliary left back because that's not his position on the team. If the left back isn't doing his job, you take the left back off and bring one on that can do it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it took him till the 60th minute, and after he'd been at fault for 2 goals, for him to do it.
Alan says that Eddie got embarrassed when the crowd started shouting. It was Livermento's name, wasn't it? Look, I've got 2 thoughts on that, Billy. Right, the crowd are frustrated. Right, they're frustrated seeing the performance that we're having against Luton Town. Again, no disrespect to Luton. You know, we as fans probably expected to win that game, and certainly most of the top 10 teams that go at home to Luton would expect to win, right? However, Luton has surprised a lot of people this season. But the fans, we're 4-2 down. We can see where the problem is. We could see at halftime where the problem was, and nothing's changing. So I can understand the fans in a way shouting for Livramento to come on. But on the flip side of that, I feel sorry for Dan Byrne in that situation. Because, Dan Byrne, he always gives 100% for Newcastle United. He's a Newcastle United fan. But when he's hung out to dry like that, it's not his fault. He's not good enough to deal with the player he was up against yesterday. He shouldn't have been there.
He had a poor game. I mean, there have been times where he's defended well against pace, but when he did it against Diaby, but that was more down to Diaby being awful and Dan Byrne being spectacularly good. What he did on Tuesday, he did the same things. Whenever he got to the ball, he put it out of play and would defend the next phase of play. Yesterday, he didn't. Headers that came to him, he was nodding back, trying to be clever with them, and nodding it straight to a Luton player. Passing the ball, trying to pass the ball inside and giving it straight to a Luton, trying to be clever. That's not in his remit. He hasn't got that technical ability. He's when he wins the ball, just get rid of it off the pitch, whatever. But don't try and play football in your own half with it because you haven't got the skills to do that.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I think he was a bit overconfident when he had the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
Add to that, time and time again, he was getting beat, and it all added up to a really, really poor performance from him.
Stanley says, what sort of message does it send to other players when you continue to pick your favourite players? Well, we've said that before. We've said that. Dan, good afternoon. Or I think it's afternoon over there in the States. 1 loss in 9, but yeah, we should embarrass Luton. Such a lack of perspective. Look, I'm not saying we should have embarrassed Luton. And I know we've had a conversation today, Dan. But, as a Newcastle United fan, you've got to be confident going at home to Luton, surely to God. But yeah, the stats, they say differently. Just the way it is. Steve says, I know this sounds crazy, but Dan Byrne did not have a bad game. He just doesn't have the pace that was needed, which is Eddie's fault, not looking at who he's up against. I kind of agree, Steve, definitely with you, and that's what we're saying. He shouldn't have played the game anyway. But Billy's just ran off a few occasions where he kind of should have done better with the ball. You know, there's times that we were commentating yesterday, Billy, that it was hitting his head and bouncing out, or bouncing straight to the opposition. He wasn't, you know, putting a proper header on it, or, you know, instead of just booting the ball away, he was trying to a pass, and certain things like that don't work.
Yeah, and also the penalty. I mean, that's a terrible mistake. Why don't you just leave it? Let Botman deal with it. Just keep on the chase. I haven't got to grab him. And then there's the other goal that he conceded. Well, was his fault for an absolute abysmal, shocking pass in the other half of the pitch. Although we were short,
I'm not sure what he was doing in the number 10 role.
What was he doing there? Yeah, what was he doing there in the first place? And even then, trying to attempt a volley pass, and when he fell on his arse doing it.
Yeah. That's the type of thing that, you know. Southern Geordie is asking the question: do we really trust Eddie with the rebuild? Yes, I do. At the moment, I do. Providing, like I've just said, he learns from these mistakes. And if he continues to make the same mistakes over and over again, then no, my faith will dwindle in him. But right now, yes, I do still have faith in Eddie Howe to be the man behind the rebuild. Billy?
It shouldn't be too much of a rebuild anyway, but I'm concerned that he's not doing it already. I think, you know, the left-back issue is the major one. But there's Lewis Hall in the squad as well. Maybe he should be starting more games, or certainly appearing more. So I'm not as confident as you are. I must be honest. For one, I'm not sure the players that we're signing are his players, and you know, we can see that with the Lewis Hall signing. I think it's whether Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe are on the same page, which is a different point, I guess. But I'm hoping they should be.
Andy Ford makes a great point here, by the way. Everyone always says that once Eddie starts coaching them, they become better. Joe Linton, Shea, Gordon, etc. Where's his coaching skills with Lewis Hall? He's had him for 7 months now and nothing to show.
Well, he was outstanding for Chelsea last season, so unless he's regressed under Eddie Howe, we don't know. We honestly can't say because we've not seen him. He played against, last game he played was Dortmund, where he got booked. Really, it was a terrible decision to book him. He got hauled off at half time.
How many times has he hauled him off at half time?
Yeah, it wasn't really. He wasn't Dan Burn-esque against.
No, he wasn't.
He was nowhere near.
Yeah,
he hauled him off.
Agreed. James Andrew, thank you for your super chat. He says, I think next season a 4-2-3-1 might be the way. Well, we can say that, James, but unfortunately, that's not the kind of tactics that he wanted, because he's had the opportunity to do that this season with some of the players that he's had available to him, but he didn't. So you have to go along the lines of, right, Eddie is setting this 4-3-3 way, and we as fans, we just have to get on with it. Chippers, thanks for your super chat. He says, we were disciplined at Villa. Where was the discipline yesterday? Well, I mean, it was out the window, to be honest. DJ, thank you for your super chat. Late joining, so sorry you've mentioned. Did you hear Eddie Howe's post-match comments? He said it wasn't clear-cut for him on their pace and threat against Dan Burn. Wow. Well, I mean, look, that Luton winger, I keep forgetting his name, Ogga whatever. The fact is that he's known as one of the quickest wingers in the Premier League. So if we know that as fans, how doesn't the manager of Newcastle United know that? That is worrying.
All you have to do is watch it. It was blatantly obvious after 10 minutes.
Yeah. Toon Gamer says Eddie's comments yesterday about Isak says wasn't even close to starting yesterday, and he doesn't know when he'll be back. Well, actually, I'm more pleased that he said I don't know when he's going to be back rather than say it's a couple of weeks. Nice casual racism there, Paul.
About what?
Says Craig Hayes. Craig, what are you talking about? Racism?
About what? Explain your comment, Craig, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
If you're accusing me of racism, Craig, get the comment in there and tell me why. Where have I just been racism, you prat? Jesus Christ. We've got another super chat from Keith Truscott. Thank you, Keith. It's who he chooses for the Forest game for me, as Burn will be fine for pace there too. Yeah, there's some very, very, very quick wingers. I wonder if Craig's going to come back and tell us because or whether he's got the bottle too. Spike says this channel is not abusing anyone. We are criticizing. Get real,
Craig. That's his name, Ogbenny. He couldn't remember his name. Don't talk.
I says Og, whoever he is his name's Ogbenny. You idiot. Ban him, Billy, please. Get him chucked out, idiot. What an absolute prat.
See you, Craig. Dick.
Yeah. Goodbye, Craig. Nice to see you. Never been on the channel before, of course, so clearly just a troll, so he's gone. Tom says Longstaff was great going forward yesterday, but dreadful trying to defend. which is a major issue sometimes with Sean Billy, because like you say, he's got the engine, but somehow he just doesn't have the strength at times.
Yeah, it's an odd combination. You know, you have to be big and physical to be able to get around the pitch like he does.
Yeah.
And yet when the ball's kind of close to him and it's at 50-50, he's not winning it.
Listen, a lot of people are commenting on Ross Barkley's performance yesterday, and should we sign him, etc. He's in his early 30s now, or he's 30. I think, to sign him now as the future, I don't see it. He was excellent yesterday, and what I love about Ross Barkley's performance, Billy, is that he used to be an attacking midfielder, and yesterday he showed how good he could be in that 6 role. Just absolutely. Just putting the jigsaw puzzles together for Luton Town and dictating. And I think he stood out more than anybody yesterday in the midfield, above Bruno as well.
Yeah, he was outstanding. I mean, I don't think I've seen a better midfield performance at St James's Park this season. Ross Barkley was always a mercurial talent. The Newcastle, and he was labelled when he was at Everton.
Yeah.
He had the world at his feet, and yet in his head, mentally, things weren't right. He just couldn't settle. Everton sold him to, I think he went to Chelsea, didn't he? Didn't do any good there. He was kind of on the fringes, couldn't get into the side, didn't have the mental aptitude to play for a Champions League side. Went around the blocks a few times. Villa had him. Went to France. He seems to have grown up in France. He's come back to Luton, wanted another go at the Premier League. And he's been fantastic this season. He's got his head screwed on now. He's dropped back on the pitch to the number 6 role. He's fantastic yesterday. Just experience, knows when to pass the ball, where to pass it, great vision, assist and a goal to boot. Terrific game, and one of the best performances I've seen at St James's Park this season.
And credit to him, because like you've just said there, Billy, he could have just done a Jesse Lingard, for instance, or I know Dele Alli's had his problems, but he sort of had the world at his feet and disappeared. I know he's had different problems, and Dele continues to work on that to come back. But when you're Ross Barkley, he could have just said, "Oh, Luton Town," or everybody did say that. He's gone to Luton Town. He's got no ambition, but he's helping Luton Town perform incredibly well at the moment, and credit to him. Just completely pulled the strings yesterday. Stanley, welcome back to Members Club. Thank you very much for signing up, and thank you for your continued support, my friend. Slothy says at 4-4 at home, we had over 15 minutes to try and win it, and really didn't look like the team who was going to win it. Like we settled for the draw, and Doob saved us a point. Well, look. After that Harvey Barnes chance, Billy, it was a brilliant, brilliant block, because that was heading in the bottom corner. After that, you kind of thought, maybe Luton are there for the taking, because they had stopped attacking us for a while. But then the last 5-10 minutes, they started knocking the ball around in our half, and of course had that opportunity at the end. It was a comfortable save for Dubravka. But had that been any wider of Dubravka, that would have been very difficult one to save. A little like Ogbona's or Adebayo's goal, in the 4th goal. So it could have been very different.
They made a couple of changes when we got to 4 apiece, and maybe Rob Edwards wished he'd done it a little bit before that. They did tighten things up for them, and they started regaining control of the ball again. Yeah. Barkley was out of the game for 20 minutes. So those 20 minutes when we came back into it, he didn't see Ross Barkley on the ball.
Yeah,
and when they made the changes, he got back onto the ball again, and they looked pretty good. Yeah, they did. They looked the better side at the end, and probably deserved the 3 points. I'm being totally honest. Over the 90 minutes, probably with the better side.
Yeah, Foxy says, "How got it right for the Villa win and got a lot of plaudits for that. Yesterday, he got it very wrong and deserves criticism. That's the life of being a manager. Will he learn from his mistakes? Only time will tell." Brilliant comment, Foxy. Absolutely brilliant. That's exactly what we're saying. Mate Dad was in attendance for the game. I wonder what he thought about the game. Well, he wouldn't have been happy with the draw. Just nobody was. I don't understand any Newcastle player being happy with the draw at home to Luton. And again, no disrespect to them. But if we want to be an elite side, you think Manchester City going to Luton and getting or at home to Luton and draw? Do you think their fans would be happy? Come on. What Eddie says in public is different to what he says behind the scenes. You don't wash your laundry in public. I understand that. But don't come out with ridiculous quotes, though. There's a time and a place for saying things like that. Hasn't Eddie managed over 600 games now?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what I mean by it's very difficult for me or Billy or a lot of fans to say, well, he's learning. I mean, it's a risk. This is a good point. You don't come to Newcastle to learn how to manage.
Correct. He didn't come in as a wet behind the ears rookie manager. Absolutely not.
He didn't.
So to say he's learning, to me, is absolute bollocks. He should have already learned. He's done the hard yards. He's been a manager in every division. He got Bournemouth promoted from that's old school 4th to 3rd, 2nd to 1st.
Yeah,
kept him in the Premier League. Fantastic achievement. So for me, saying he's still learning, I'm like, okay, it's a bigger club than Bournemouth, but still, last season no one said he was learning.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is, you know, if you don't like honesty, then don't watch this channel. It's as simple as that. I mean, I can still see people putting in the chat about, you know, being negative and all of this kind of crap. Rubbish. All right. You cannot be positive drawing 4-4 with Luton. You can be positive about the comeback and who we had available again. But come on. If you want to blow flowers up the players' asses every single game and feel like they don't deserve any criticism, then, you know, go and watch somebody else, guys, please. Honestly, it's absolutely pathetic. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you know, it was okay. It was this, it was that. Just... And but yes, notorious, you are a clown.
Obviously, at the same time, you do obviously learn as you go on. You know, being a manager, but you should have the basics and realise when a player is playing absolutely shockingly bad. He's going to cost you the game if you don't take him off, and he didn't.
Barth says 44 years supporting Newcastle. Say what I want about my club. Exactly. You say what you want. You're allowed that. You know. I've supported Newcastle since, 1982? I'm sorry. Nobody's going to, no little plastic fan's going to come on here and tell me that I can't be annoyed at the performance. You know what I mean? It's, can we chuck Notorious out as well? Because he's another prick. So can we just get him out? In fact, I'll do it myself. See you later, you bellend. Honestly. He's hitting on the channel now, so that's fine. Wow. Foxy says, one thing I will say to defend Howe, despite being a manager for 15 plus years now, this season was his first being in Europe. So at this type of level, he's still a baby. Really was a new experience for him.
Yeah, we're not in Europe now.
But we're not in Europe. Exactly, yeah. It's madness. It's crazy, but this is just the situation we found. Notorious is the same bloke you blocked the first time at Troll. Well, there you go. They're all out tonight. Of course they are. Just because they're they're stuck under the rocks and stuck in the dungeons with the curtains well and truly shut because they can't open them because all they can do is toss off in their own room over the curtains all night. Anyway, Billy, we'll move on to the player ratings now. So get your player ratings in the chat, guys. And see if you agree with me and Billy. Kenzie says, sorry, but you are negative, Paul and Billy. Dan Burn was magnificent. It was man of the match for me, says Kenzie.
I didn't know you were part of the Luton backroom staff, Kenzie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right, let's start with Dubravka, Billy.
I don't think he was as safe as he has been. I'm going to give him a 6. He's let 4 goals in at the end of the day. I mean, whether you can say they're his fault or not, he's let 4 in.
Well, the second one, I think, was, Billy. He pushed it straight out to...
Yeah, he did. We criticised the Luton goalkeeper for doing exactly the same thing. And
yeah. He
pushed it straight out, you're right. So I'm going to give him a 6.
I'm going with a 5 for Dubravka for that reason. I think, he did obviously save that one at the end, but that was a very comfortable save. But when the ball's coming across you like that, and somebody, I think, made the point in either my reaction video last night or during the Matchday live show, Billy, that even the Sunday League goalkeeper, you're taught to, you're never taught to palm the ball straight out in front of you. And it was poor for me. But look, Dubravka wasn't to blame for yesterday. He could have done better on the second goal, but he wasn't to blame. Right, Kieran Tripp, you're at right back, Billy.
I thought he had an excellent game. A goal and an assist. Slightly at fault for the second goal. On his side of the pitch, but all in all, goal and assist, I'll give him an 8. I thought he was very, very good.
Yeah, 8 for me as well. I thought he took his goal really well because if you look back at it, Billy, it was slightly behind him, wasn't it? And he just did really well to get a very good purchase on it with his left peg as well. Let's not forget. I thought he was excellent. Could have done maybe better on a few set pieces, but all in all, I mean, I don't really have a complaint at all.
There were times where balls were played out to where he usually was, and he wasn't there. He was too deep. But I thought he's back to his best, no doubt about it.
Which was very strange yesterday because it happened with him and Murphy. You know, when we were getting the ball over this near side, and then we were pinging balls out because they expected those two to be there, and there was no one there, which was a little bizarre. Ken said, I went to my first game in 1964 and I would criticize when they deserve it. But yesterday I was called an armchair fan and I didn't know what I was talking about. Just ignore it, Ken. Honestly, seriously, man. These just idiots, man. Right. Dan Byrne, Billy.
Yeah, I'm just going to give him the solitary points just for being able to get himself onto the pitch. Just a point. He was absolutely dog shit.
Yep. One for me as well. Sven Botman.
I'm going to give Sven a 5. I thought he was nowhere near his usual standard. And at times he does cover that Dan Byrne's ass by getting put fires out, but he didn't yesterday.
Yeah.
Passing weren't so good either. I think Stato said his passing usually in the 90s. It was high 70s yesterday. So, 5 for me for Botman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether Botman's performance, you know, when Burns all over the shop like that, Billy, I don't know whether that affects Sven Botman because he doesn't know whether they, you know, come across and back him up, or whether somebody from further up the field is going to come back and back, you know, Dan Burn up, and it's putting a little bit of doubt in Sven Botman's mind. You know, because when you've got a very accomplished left back there, that helps your centre backs because they don't have to worry as much as what they did about the winger yesterday flying past him and then Botman having to come across and cover. So I can understand Botman to a degree, but I'm going with a 5 as well, Billy. Fabian Schär.
I thought it was much better in attack than what it was in defence, to be honest. I don't think his defending was great. Again, it was the second goal. The Barkley goal was down in that area of the pitch, nowhere to be seen. But going forward, he was really good. But I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah. And as it says, what's wrong with supporting your team from your armchair like millions of people do? What a weird thing to say. Well, exactly. The way tickets are, you know, the way people can't get tickets anymore, what are you supposed to do?
Exactly.
It's just common sense. Honestly, man, these people. Dylan says that's why Schär plays so well. He has Trippier to his flank, makes it so much harder for Botman when Burn is getting skinned every 5 minutes. I'm going to give Schär a 6. Again, though, it creates. I think when your centre backs have doubt in the mind, and obviously, you know, Botman's getting pulled across, then you know Schär's having to cover that position as well. It has a knock-on effect in all the positions, and I think that's what affected us badly yesterday. But to be honest, Billy, I think even from the off, you know, when we were doing the commentary yesterday, we both said within the first 10 minutes. Both defenses look off here.
Yeah, shaky, yeah, definitely.
Right, we'll move to Bruno now, Billy.
The first half, if I was marking his first half performance, I'd probably give him a 4, but his second half performance was fantastic. So somewhere between 4 and 9, I'll give him a 6. Give him a 6.
Yeah, I thought he was off in the first half, but those two, I mean, obviously Trippier's goal, the ball, he played a couple with the outside of his boot across the penalty area, which were just sublime, which is exactly what he can do. But I just think he's hindered by this yellow card, Billy, and I don't know whether that's come from the manager or whether that's in Bruno's own mind that he just doesn't want to sit out 2 games.
I don't think he's fit. I don't think he's fit either.
Well, we said that yesterday, didn't we? Just he seemed to be a little bit groggy, but the fact of the matter is, I think Tom mentioned it in our chat earlier on that he's got something like 9 games to go before, you know, the yellow cards don't affect him anymore. But, you know, he's going to get banned. And I want to see Bruno play his proper game because when he's physical and he's committed, that's when we get the best out of Bruno. You know what I mean? You know, he played a disciplined game at Aston Villa because he had to, you know, but yesterday... But his fitness was a little bit of a concern. So I think a 6 is a fair. Lewis Miley, Billy.
Yeah, the midfield 3, I think he was the best one. And an assist and some good passing. Yeah, I think I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, I've gone for a 7 as well. So, yeah, 7 is a good score for me. I thought what I was really impressed with him yesterday, Billy, is his runs that he was making towards the byline. Certainly in the first half, he was overlapping, he was getting stuck in, and you know, he was kind of doing what Sean did earlier in his career. Well, earlier this season, I should say, not his career, but I thought he was excellent. 7 for me.
He looked like he was on, out on his feet at the 60-minute mark, but he got a second win, didn't he? And towards the end of the game, he really came back into it again. And that tackle for the assist was a fantastic one.
Yeah. Keith, thank you for another super chat. He says, Bruno playing out of position. We really need a 6 so he can go forward.
100%.
Exactly what Billy was saying before, mate, to be honest. Sean Longstaff, Bill.
Yeah, he scored 2 goals, so you've got to mark him pretty high for that. 2 good finishes. But his general game was poor, so I'm going to give him a 7, purely for the goals. If I'd not scored them goals, you were looking at 5 or 4 even.
Do you know what? It's exactly what I've got, 7 because of the goals. I think that the 2 goals he scored, because of how important they were, I think has boosted his score up a little bit. I think had he not scored the goals, I think we were looking at another low score for Sean. But credit to him. And as I said, that the first goal was brilliant because he had to really, really work to get in the middle of those 2 centre backs, Billy.
He'd already had the same opportunity, but he didn't swing his boot at the ball, did he? About 5 minutes before that. And we were all saying, why didn't you swing your boot here? And he didn't do it. And then next time he did it. So, 2 fantastic finishes. Yep.
Okay, we'll move to the front 3 who started yesterday. And we'll obviously start off with Jacob Murphy, Bill.
I thought he had a good game. I thought he played well. I thought he was very dangerous. I thought some of the twists and turns he did, some of his passing was very good. Yeah, I think he's getting better with each game. I'll give him a 7 as well.
Yeah. I'm going with a 6, but for similar reasons. I think the more he gets fitter and fitter and fitter, we're going to see the very best of Jacob Murphy. I think he put some bloody good crosses in yesterday, but we didn't have anybody on the end of them, unfortunately. So I think if he can keep doing that, then that will only benefit Newcastle United, especially with Callum Wilson coming back. Right, over onto the left-hand side yesterday, Billy, which was, of course, Miggy Almiron.
Hard one to mark, and it's not necessarily Miggy's fault. He didn't really get in the game very much, if I'm honest. I'll give him a 6, but he's hard to mark because he didn't do an awful lot, and he didn't do an awful lot anywhere really. But he was trying to do a lot of defensive work, I guess, but not succeeding in that. So 6.
Yeah, 6 for me as well. And I think I said yesterday that I really wanted to see Miggy get the ball on the left-hand side and really try and take somebody on. The few times he did get that opportunity, he didn't do it. But on the flip side of that, his defensive work rate was fantastic yesterday, helping out with the problems that were going on at left back. And I think his score has been dragged down a little bit because we saw him in the wrong end of the pitch. Right up front, Anthony Gordon for the first 45, Billy.
Yeah, he had an excellent first half, and I say we missed him. We didn't really miss him because we had a good performance at that position second half, but a different kind of performance from Gordon, obviously with his pace. I'll give him a 7 because he was only on for half the game, but he was very dangerous every time he had the ball.
Yeah, 7 for me as well, for exactly the same reasons. Okay, substitutes. Obviously, Callum came on at half time. I'm going to give Callum an 8. I know he didn't score. However, it's absolutely brilliant. The last time I think I saw Callum play like that, Billy, was the season before last, the last game of the season at home to Arsenal, when he really bossed Gabriel. And that's the kind of Callum Wilson that I love seeing, who actually, every goal kick that was coming, every long ball to him, he was getting in front of the defender, he was holding the ball up, he was strong, he was winning free kicks. That is the Callum Wilson that we know and love. And, it's a shame he couldn't have topped that second half performance off with a goal. But I thought his aggression was brilliant. And that's what I want to see. So an 8 from me.
Yeah, what we saw yesterday was a hungry Callum Wilson. I think he's obviously been reading these reports about us wanting to let him go and, obviously being criticised for not being fit all the time. He come on yesterday and he put a performance in that actually scared the living daylights out of their centre-halves. All over the pitch, he was showing for the ball, receiving the ball, laying it off, winning 50-50s. Very, very good. Unfortunately, we couldn't give him a chance to have a shot on goal. I think he would have scored. But I'll give him an 8.
And then, of course, the 2 substitutions when we went 2 goals down, he brought Livramento and Harvey Barnes on. So we'll do Livramento first, Billy.
Well, as soon as he came on, it was much more solid, wasn't it? He's a much better defender, and he gets forward more comfortably as well. 7 for Livramento.
Yeah, I thought there was a couple of times actually he was done on the on that left hand side, but not to the degree. I think it was again like it was at Villa when he first came on, just a little bit cold. Once he got going, there was no problems. He's getting forward and everything like that. So 7 for me. Harvey Barnes is an 8. I thought he was excellent when he came on. Really, really did turn the game for us down that left-hand side. And he's so dangerous because what Harvey Barnes can do is he can score with his left foot, as we saw yesterday, just guiding it into the corner. And then he nearly scored on the other foot when he does what he does really well, is cut into the box and take a shot with his right foot towards the far corner, Billy. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a 9. Okay. I'll be very critical of him.
Yeah.
His lack of pace does worry me, but what he lacks in pace, he makes up with brains and technical ability. Absolutely. The goal was a fantastic finish. His actual passing and stuff like that, creating stuff was really good as well. So 9 for me. I think it's his best performance for us by a country mile.
Yeah, Bluntrap says, where does Barnes play? When Gordon is fit, but I'd play Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left. Simple as that. I think that those two are our best wide players, so why not play them? But that's not necessarily the case with the manager, so we have to wait and see. I think that was it for subs, wasn't it? I don't think we brought anybody else on. No. Right, Eddie Howe. I'm giving him a 3. Terrible with his lineup. Should have known better. Didn't respond to it at half time and took till 2 goals before he actually made the change. So, yeah, 3 for me, Billy.
Yeah, I'll give him a 2. The team selection wasn't great. Dan Burn one in particular. I don't think Miggy works down the left either. I don't want to see that again. If I'm perfectly honest, I don't want to see Miggy down the left. And the lateness in the changes, to be honest, he should have seen it way before he did. Yeah. The Burn one should have been up even before half time. It wouldn't have been. Yeah, you couldn't have criticised him for taking him off before half time. So at half time, he still leaves him on. Waits until he concedes another 2 goals, which were both the players' fault who he should have took off. Then makes the changes and we come back into the game. Yeah, poor in game management, really poor.
Yeah. I mean, Billy, I could turn around to say, how dare you say that? You know, do you think you're more qualified than Eddie Howe?
No, I'm only going by what I saw.
Exactly. But there you go, guys. That is the review done and dusted for tonight. I'm very sorry about those idiots that come in the chat, but we're going to get them all the time. The bigger the channel gets, we know who the proper fans are, and if you can't be a proper fan, then what's the point? It's ridiculous, to be honest. But hey. There it is. I'm very, very, very happy with everyone else who's been in tonight. Thank you so much for your comments and your player ratings, etc. Your new memberships, super chats, etc. Thank you so much for that, guys. I'll be back in the morning with the daily news or the morning news, and I'm sure we'll be back tomorrow night with the show. If not, it'll be Tuesday night. Whether we have a night off or not, I don't know, because we've been going a while. Especially after the marathon that was transfer deadline day. So we may take a night off, but there'll definitely be a show in the morning. And if there's any
poll.
Yes, I know, I'm seeing it. And if there's any obviously news in the afternoon, then obviously we'll probably do a show tomorrow. Right, the viewers' man of the match. Let's have a look. Right, who do you think won it, Billy? Out of Longstaff, Shea, Miley, Trippier?
Trippier.
It was indeed Kieran Trippier with 43% of the votes. Second was Longstaff with 28% of the votes. Miley third with 23%. And Fabian Schär with a whopping 6% of the votes. So there you go. The viewers have voted, and it is Kieran Trippier as your man of the match. Right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to the mods. Billy, thank you very much. As usual, thank you to all you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we'll see you again very soon. In the meantime, good night.
Away the lads and lasses.
Come back and check out the breeze.